In the heart of the big city, a poor, lonely girl clings to her baby brother as if he were her last hope. "Sir, please help my brother," she whispered to the man hurrying by with tired eyes. He who thought he could never love again sees in that gesture the answer to a long-forgotten prayer. In the girl's weakness, he finds his strength, and in the hungry baby, a new reason to live. If you love a good story, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're from. Let's keep going. In the fading light of a bitter Chicago winter, 10-year-old Emma Riley clutched her baby sister Lily tightly against her chest, desperately, trying to shield the infant from the biting wind that cut through the concrete canyons of the city. Her thin jacket provided little protection as snowflakes began to dance around them, settling on her auburn hair like tiny white stars. The baby's cries had grown weaker over the past hour, which worried Emma more than the loud wails that had attracted unwanted attention from passers-by earlier. "Just a little longer, Lily," Emma whispered, her breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. "I promise I'll find us somewhere warm soon." The sisters had spent the last 3 nights moving between bus stations and 24-hour diners, always staying just long enough to get warm before someone would inevitably ask questions Emma couldn't answer. Questions about where their parents were. Questions that might separate them forever. Emma adjusted her backpack, which contained everything they had left. A change of clothes for each of them, 3 diapers, half a can of formula, and her most precious possession, a silver locket that her mother had pressed into her palm 4 days ago at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. "Keep this safe," her mother had whispered, her voice weak from pneumonia. "Promise me you'll take care of Lily. Don't let them separate you. I'll be better soon and I'll come find you. Promise me, Emma." And Emma had promised. Even at 10, she understood the gravity of her mother's request. Sarah Riley had been deteriorating for weeks before finally collapsing at their tiny apartment. The landlord had already threatened eviction, and Emma knew that Child Protective Services had been called once before when a teacher noticed bruises on her arms, bruises from protecting her mother during one of her fainting spells. Emma's storytelling had always been her escape. Even now, as they huddled in the doorway of a closed bookstore on Michigan Avenue, she whispered elaborate tales to Lily about princesses who saved themselves, about magical worlds where nobody went hungry, and about brave girls who protected their families against impossible odds. "And then, Princess Lily," she continued, gently rocking the fussing baby, "the magical dragon gave them a castle with warm beds and hot chocolate that never ran out. And they lived there together, always together, until their queen mother returned from her long journey." A businessman hurried past, not even glancing at the 2 girls huddled in the doorway. Emma had learned to become invisible, a survival skill in a city that swallowed the vulnerable whole. But tonight was different. The temperature was dropping fast, and Lily hadn't eaten properly in 24 hours. The formula was almost gone, and Emma's own stomach had been empty for so long that the hunger pangs had transformed into a dull, persistent ache. She needed to find help, but trust didn't come easily to Emma Riley. Her father, Michael Riley, a once successful tech entrepreneur, had vanished when she was 4. Her mother never spoke about him except in hushed phone calls, late at night, conversations that ended in tears and unanswered questions. All Emma had were fragments of memories, a deep laugh, strong hands lifting her high into the air, and the smell of coffee and peppermint. The sound of expensive tires gliding through slush pulled Emma from her thoughts. A sleek black Audi stopped at the curb nearby, and a tall man in a camel coat stepped out. Something about him caught Emma's attention. Perhaps it was the careful way he moved, or the kind lines around his eyes. Unlike the hurried masses who brushed past her all day, he seemed aware of his surroundings, present in the moment. When he turned and locked eyes with Emma, she didn't look away. Desperation had overridden caution. The man's expression shifted from surprise to concern as he noticed the bundle in her arms. "Are you all right?" he asked, approaching slowly, as if afraid he might startle her. Emma tightened her grip on Lily. "We're fine," she replied automatically, the lie bitter on her tongue. The man crouched down, maintaining a respectful distance. "It's freezing out here. That doesn't look like a winter coat you're wearing, and that baby sounds like she might—" Have a cold. There was something in his voice, a genuine concern that Emma hadn't heard from an adult in a long time. Still, she remained wary. We're waiting for someone, she said, another practiced lie. The man nodded slowly. My name is Dr. Daniel Thompson. I'm a pediatrician, a doctor for children at Children's Memorial. He reached into his pocket and produced a hospital ID card as proof. Emma glanced at it quickly but remained guarded. I'm Emma. This is my sister Lily. Emma, it's dangerous to be out in this cold, especially for a baby. Do you have someone taking care of you? The question hung in the air between them. Emma weighed her options quickly. Her mother had always warned her about strangers, but she had also taught her to recognize genuine kindness. Looking into Dr. Thompson's eyes, Emma saw no malice, only concern. Our mom is in the hospital, she finally admitted, her voice cracking. She has pneumonia. She made me promise to keep Lily safe, but I don't know what to do anymore. Dr. Thompson's expression softened. You've been very brave, Emma. Both you and Lily need somewhere warm tonight. I'd like to help you if you'll let me. Emma hesitated. They'll take Lily away if they find us. They'll put us in different homes. I promised Mom I wouldn't let that happen. Is there anyone else? Any relatives who could help? Emma shook her head. Mom said not to trust anyone from her family. And Dad. Dad disappeared years ago. Dr. Thompson seemed to consider this information carefully. I understand your concerns, Emma. Truly I do. My wife Rebecca and I, we have a warm home not far from here. We could give you both a safe place. To stay tonight, some food and clean clothes. Then tomorrow we can figure out how to help your mom and keep you both together. Emma studied his face for any sign of deception, but found none. Lily let out another weak cry, and Emma made her decision. You promise you won't call social services tonight. You promise we can stay together. I promise, Dr. Thompson replied solemnly. No calls tonight. You stay with your sister and we'll figure this out together. With trembling legs, Emma stood. Dr. Thompson led them to his car, where a booster seat was already installed. He mentioned having nieces and nephews he often drove around. The warmth of the vehicle's interior brought instant relief, and for the first time in days, Emma felt her shoulders relax slightly. As they drove through the snowy Chicago streets, Emma cradled Lily closer. The baby had finally stopped crying, lulled by the car's gentle motion and the blessed warmth. Dr. Thompson made quiet phone calls to his wife, he explained, preparing her for their arrival. 20 minutes later, they pulled into the driveway of a beautiful brownstone in Lincoln Park. Through the windows, Emma could see warm lights and a Christmas tree twinkling in the corner. A woman appeared at the door, tall and elegant, with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. This is my wife, Rebecca, Dr. Thompson said as he helped Emma from the car. She's a nurse at the same hospital where I work, Rebecca. Thompson approached them, her expression warm but not overwhelming. Hello, Emma, and this must be Lily, she said softly. Let's get you both inside where it's warm. I've made some soup, and we have formula for the baby. The mention of food made Emma's stomach clench painfully. She followed the Thompsons into their home, still clutching Lily tightly, unwilling to let her go even for a moment. The interior of the house was everything Emma had imagined in her. Stories, warm, safe, with soft couches and thick carpets. Family photos lined the walls, and the smell of homemade chicken soup filled the air. Rebecca showed Emma to the bathroom, where a warm bath was already running, and provided clean towels and borrowed clothes. Take your time, Rebecca said gently. I can hold Lily while you bathe if you'd like, but it's okay if you're not ready. Say her that yet, I understand. Emma hesitated but then shook her head. I'll keep her with me, thank you. For the first time in days, Emma felt the icy fear inside her begin to thaw, but beneath the relief, questions bubbled up like springs. Why would these strangers help them? What would happen tomorrow? And the most persistent question of all, what secrets lay hidden in the silver locket her mother had given her, the one she dared not open? As she carefully bathed Lily in the warm water, Emma whispered another story to her sister. Once upon a time, there were two brave princesses who faced a winter storm. Just when things seemed darkest, they found a castle with kind guardians. But the princesses knew that castles sometimes hide secrets, and that not all stories end the way you expect them to. Outside the bathroom door, unbeknownst to Emma, Dr. Thompson studied an old photograph he kept in his wallet, a picture of a younger version of himself standing beside another man, both in lab coats, both smiling. The other man bore a striking resemblance to Emma, with the same auburn hair and determined eyes. Daniel Thompson carefully returned the photo to his wallet, his expression unreadable as he prepared to make good on his promise to help these two lost girls for reasons more complicated than simple compassion. Emma woke with a start, momentarily disoriented by the soft sheets and warm room. Sunlight filtered through cream-colored curtains, casting a gentle glow across the guest bedroom of the Thompson home. Next to her, in a hastily arranged bassinet, Lily slept peacefully for the first time in days. The events of the previous night came rushing back, Dr. Thompson finding them in the cold, the warm house, Rebecca's homemade soup, and the clean clothes that smelled of lavender detergent. She slipped her hand beneath her pillow, fingers closing around her mother's silver locket. It was still there, still safe. Emma had refused to remove it even while bathing. The mysterious medallion was all she had left of her mother now, besides Lily. A soft knock at the door made her sit up. Rebecca's voice came through, gentle and unassuming. "Emma, are you awake? I've made breakfast whenever you're ready." "Just a minute," Emma called back, quickly tucking the locket under her borrowed sweater. In the Thompsons' sunlit kitchen, the scene was almost surreal in its normalcy. Dr. Thompson, who had asked her to call him Daniel, sat at the table reading a newspaper, while Rebecca flipped pancakes at the stove. It reminded Emma painfully of mornings long ago, before her father disappeared, before her mother started working 3 jobs, before everything fell apart. "Good morning, Emma," Daniel said, setting down his paper. "How did you sleep?" "Fine." "Thank you," she replied cautiously, sliding into a chair. "Lily's still sleeping." "That's good. She needed the rest. I checked on her breathing during the night. Purely professional habit," he added quickly when he saw Emma's expression. "She seems healthy, just exhausted and a bit undernourished." Rebecca placed a stack of pancakes in front of Emma. "Eat as much as you want. There's plenty more." Emma hesitated only briefly before digging in, her hunger overriding any remaining caution. Between bites, she studied the Thompsons. They moved around each other with practiced ease, exchanging small smiles and brief touches that spoke of years together. On the refrigerator, Emma noticed several drawings signed by different children's names. "Are those from your kids?" she asked. Rebecca smiled, though something flickered in her eyes. "We don't have children of our own. Those are from my patients at the Children's Cancer Ward. I'm an oncology nurse." "What's oncology?" "It's the study and treatment of cancer," Daniel explained gently. Emma nodded, processing this. "So you both help sick kids?" "We try," Rebecca said, sitting down with her own plate. "Now, Emma, we need to talk about what happens next. Your mother is at Northwestern Memorial, you said." Emma tensed. "You promised you wouldn't call social services." Daniel leaned forward, his expression serious. "And I'll keep that promise, Emma. But we need to make sure your mother is okay, and she needs to know you and Lily are safe." After some hesitation, Emma provided her mother's full name, Sarah Riley, and what little she knew about her condition. Daniel made a few quiet phone calls from his study, using his medical credentials to gain information. When he returned to the kitchen, his expression was carefully neutral. "Your mom is still in the hospital," he told Emma. "She has severe pneumonia, but she's responding to treatment. They expect her to need at least another week of hospitalization." Emma's shoulders slumped with relief. Her mother was alive. "Can we see her?" Daniel and Rebecca exchanged glances. "We can try to arrange a short visit," Rebecca said. "But Emma, the hospital will have questions about who's caring for you and Lily." "You promised," Emma reminded them, panic rising in her voice. Daniel raised a hand reassuringly. "And we'll keep our word. But we need a plan. Your mother authorized a friend to be your emergency contact when she was admitted." "Do you know someone named Margaret Winters?" Emma frowned. "Miss Maggie, she was our neighbor before we had to move. Mom trusted her." The hospital has been trying to reach her, but apparently she's out of town visiting family for the holidays. As they discussed options, Lily's cries echoed from the bedroom. Emma immediately stood, but Rebecca gently touched her arm. "Finish your breakfast. I'll get her. I've got formula warming." Emma hesitated, torn between her protective instincts and her growing trust in Rebecca. Finally, she nodded and watched as Rebecca hurried to tend to Lily. "Your sister will be fine with Rebecca," Daniel assured her. "She's amazing with babies." "You guys never had kids of your own?" Emma asked, curiosity temporarily overriding caution. A shadow passed over Daniel's face. "We tried for many years, it just wasn't meant to be for us." When Rebecca returned with a freshly changed and fed Lily, the baby seemed content in her arms. For the first time, Emma allowed someone else to hold her sister for more than a few moments, a small but significant surrender of her self-imposed responsibility. While Rebecca played with Lily, Daniel suggested Emma might want to shower and change into fresh clothes he'd quickly purchased that morning: jeans, t-shirts, a warm sweater, and a proper winter coat. The kindness overwhelmed Emma, and she retreated to the bathroom, turning on the shower to mask the sound of her sobs. The weight of the past few days crashed over her, and she allowed herself this brief moment of release. As warm water washed over her, Emma's thoughts returned to her mother's locket. She'd never tried to open it before, respecting her mother's instruction to simply keep it safe. But now, with her mother in the hospital and strangers offering help that seemed too good to be true, Emma wondered what secrets the silver pendant might hold. After dressing in her new clothes, Emma closed the bathroom door and carefully examined the locket. It wasn't like the heart-shaped ones in stores. This was oval with intricate engravings that seemed to form a pattern she couldn't quite decipher. She tried prying it open with her fingernail but found no obvious seam. A knock at the door startled her. "Emma, everything okay in there?" Daniel called. "Yes, coming out now," she replied, quickly tucking the locket under her sweater. The rest of the day passed in a strange limbo of cautious comfort. Daniel went to the hospital for his shift, but promised to check on Sarah Riley. Rebecca stayed home, explaining she was off rotation for the holidays. She showed Emma how to properly prepare Lily's formula and demonstrated techniques for soothing the baby when she fussed. By evening, when Daniel returned, Emma had settled into an uneasy truce with their situation. The alternative, the streets, the cold, Lily's hunger, was unthinkable. "I spoke with your mother's doctors," Daniel said as they ate dinner. "She's still quite ill, but she's conscious. When I mentioned I was caring for you and Lily, she became very agitated." Emma's heart sank. "She's worried about us." "Yes, but there's more." Daniel hesitated. "She asked me something strange. She wanted to know if anyone else had been asking about you two." Rebecca looked alarmed. "Did she say who she was worried about?" Daniel shook his head. "She was too exhausted to explain, but I promised her you were both safe. Emma, she wants to see you tomorrow. I've arranged a brief visit." Later that night, after Rebecca had helped settle Lily to sleep, Emma sat cross-legged on the guest bed, turning the locket over in her hands. Something about Daniel's report of her mother's reaction nagged at her. Who would be looking for them? And why? On impulse, Emma tried pressing various spots on the locket's engraved surface. Suddenly, she felt a small click, and the locket popped, open to reveal not the expected photo space, but a folded piece of microfilm and a tiny key. With trembling fingers, Emma unfolded the microfilm. On it was a series of numbers and letters that made no sense to her, followed by a name: Alexander Webb, Boston University, Department of Archaeology. Emma's heart pounded. The name meant nothing to her, but clearly this was important enough for her mother to hide it in a secret compartment. As for the key, it was too small for any door, perhaps for a safety deposit box or a special lock. She was so engrossed in her discovery that she didn't hear footsteps approaching the door. Quickly, she refolded the microfilm and slipped it, along with the key, back into the locket, snapping it shut just as Rebecca knocked. "Emma? Can I come in?" "Sure," Emma called, tucking the locket under her pillow. Rebecca entered with a mug of hot chocolate topped with whipped cream. "Thought you might like this before bed." "Thank you," Emma said, accepting the mug. The warmth seeped into her hands, comforting and real. Rebecca sat on the edge of the bed. I know this is all very strange for you, being here with people you've just met. I want you to know that Daniel and I truly want to help you and Lily. Emma took a sip of the rich chocolate. Why? Why would you help strangers? Rebecca's smile held a hint of sadness. Not everyone needs a reason to be kind, Emma, but if you're asking what's in it for us. She looked toward the sleeping Lily. Having you two here has brought life to this house. We've wanted children for so long. There was something in her tone that made Emma pause. Did you know my mom? Or my dad? A flicker of surprise crossed Rebecca's face, quickly masked. No, why would you think that? Just wondering, Emma said, not entirely convinced. It seems like a big coincidence, Dr. Thompson, finding us like that. Rebecca patted her hand. Sometimes life works in mysterious ways. Try to get some sleep now. Tomorrow you'll see your mum, and things will start to make more sense. After Rebecca left, Emma lay awake, her mind racing. The Thompsons seemed genuinely kind, but there was something they weren't telling her. She could feel it. The locket's secrets burned in her mind, and her mother's warning about people looking for them echoed in her thoughts. From the bassinet came Lily's soft breathing, a constant reminder of what was at stake. Emma had promised to protect her sister, and she would, even if that meant discovering truths that adults wanted to keep hidden. Outside the guest room, Daniel and Rebecca spoke in hushed tones in their bedroom. She's starting to ask questions, Rebecca whispered, concern evident in her voice. Daniel sighed heavily. We knew she would. She's smart, just like her father. Do you think the locket has what we've been looking for all these years? If Sarah gave it to her, then almost certainly, but we have to be patient. Emma needs to trust us first. Rebecca's voice cracked with emotion. 6 years, Daniel. 6 years we've been searching. I know, he said, taking her hand, and now they've found their way to us. Whatever happens next, we need to make sure those girls are safe. Michael would have wanted that. And if the others find out they're here? Daniel's expression hardened. Then we'll be ready. I made a promise to Michael Riley a long time ago, and I intend to keep it. In the guest room, Emma finally drifted off to sleep. The silver locket clutched in her hand, unaware that the mystery she'd begun to unravel was far bigger than she could imagine, a mystery that connected her missing father to the Thompsons, to an ancient discovery in Egypt, and to powerful people who would do anything to keep certain secrets buried. The hospital corridor stretched before Emma like a sterile labyrinth, its fluorescent lights casting a harsh glow that made everyone look sickly. Daniel walked slightly ahead, his white coat and confident stride parting the sea of nurses and orderlies, like Moses commanding the Red Sea. Rebecca followed behind, carrying Lily, who was bundled in a new soft yellow blanket. Emma clutched her backpack tightly, the weight of the silver locket inside a constant reminder of her discovery the previous night. She hadn't told the Thompsons about the microfilm or the tiny key. Some instinct, perhaps inherited from her cautious mother, told her to keep these secrets close. As they approached the intensive care unit, Daniel stopped at the nurses' station to speak with a colleague. Emma overheard fragments of their conversation: pneumonia, improving, concerned about stress, and finally, limited visit. The nurse glanced at Emma with sympathy before nodding. Your mom is doing better today, Daniel explained, crouching to meet Emma's eyes, but she's still very weak. The doctor says you can see her for 15 minutes, but try not to upset her, okay? Emma nodded, her throat suddenly tight. Can Lily come too? Of course. Rebecca will bring her in after a few minutes. I think seeing both of you safe will help your mom more than any medicine. The door to Sarah Riley's room felt impossibly heavy as Emma pushed it open. The space beyond was dim, with monitoring equipment creating a constellation of blinking lights around the bed where her mother lay. Sarah looked smaller than Emma remembered, her normally vibrant features hollowed by illness, her chestnut hair limp against the white pillow. Mom? Emma whispered, approaching cautiously. Sarah's eyes fluttered open, taking a moment to focus. When she recognized Emma, she reached out with a trembling hand. Emma, "Oh my God, Emma, you're okay." Emma rushed forward, carefully embracing her mother, mindful of the IV lines. "I kept Lily safe, Mom, just like I promised." Tears slid down Sarah's pale cheeks. "My brave girl, I was so worried." Her voice was raspy from coughing, barely above a whisper. "Where's Lily? Is she—" "She's fine," Emma assured her quickly. "Rebecca's bringing her in. Mom, we're staying with Dr. Thompson and his wife. They found us on Michigan Avenue and took us home." Sarah's expression changed, a flash of something, fear, suspicion, crossing her features. "Thompson? Daniel Thompson?" Before Emma could respond, Rebecca entered with Lily, who was awake and alert, her big eyes scanning the unfamiliar room. Sarah's attention immediately shifted to her baby, arms outstretched despite her weakness. "My little Lily," she breathed, as Rebecca carefully placed the infant in the crook of her arm. Sarah pressed her lips to Lily's forehead, then looked up at Rebecca with an unreadable expression. "Thank you for caring for my daughters," Rebecca nodded. "They're wonderful girls. We're happy to help until you're back on your feet." A weighted silence filled the room, broken only by the steady beep of the heart monitor. Emma sensed tension beneath the polite exchange, as though the adults were having a separate, silent conversation over her head. "Emma," Sarah said, finally, "could you and Rebecca give me a moment alone with Dr. Thompson?" Emma hesitated, reluctant to leave her mother's side after days of separation. "But, please, sweetheart, just for a minute. Then you can come right back." Rebecca gently took Lily and guided Emma from the room. "We'll wait just outside the door," she promised, leading Emma to a small waiting area a few feet away. Once seated, Emma tried to process what she'd witnessed. "Does my mum know Dr. Thompson?" she asked Rebecca. Rebecca busied herself adjusting Lily's blanket. "Your mother might recognize Daniel from the medical community. He's quite well known in pediatric circles." The answer felt rehearsed, too smooth. Emma reached into her backpack, fingers brushing against the locket as she pretended to search for something. "Did you ever hear my mom mention someone named Alexander Webb from Boston University?" Rebecca's hands stilled momentarily. "No, I don't believe so. Is he a friend of your mother's?" "Just someone she mentioned once," Emma lied, watching Rebecca's reaction closely. Though the woman maintained her composed expression, Emma noticed a slight tension in her shoulders. Inside the hospital room, Daniel closed the door softly behind him and approached Sarah's bed. "You look better than yesterday," he said, checking her vitals with professional efficiency. "Cut the act, Daniel," Sarah rasped. "Are they watching my daughters? Have they found us?" Daniel's expression grew serious. "Not yet, as far as I can tell. But Sarah, you've been missing for over 2 years. Michael's research partners have been searching." "Research partners?" Sarah interrupted with a bitter laugh that dissolved into coughing. "Is that what you're calling them now? The people who took my husband?" "We don't know what happened to Michael," Daniel said carefully. "He disappeared before he could deliver his final findings." Sarah's eyes blazed with sudden strength. "He didn't disappear, Daniel. He was silenced, and they'll do the same to my daughters if they discover what Michael left behind." Daniel leaned closer. The Helios protocol. Did Michael complete it? "He encoded everything," Sarah whispered. "Split it into pieces for safety. No single person has all the information. And the medallion Emma wears, that's one of the keys." Sarah's gaze sharpened. "You've seen it? Has she opened it?" "I don't know," Daniel admitted. "She guards it closely." Sarah closed her eyes briefly, gathering strength. "Listen carefully, Daniel. I don't know if I can trust you. Michael did, but things change in 6 years. What I do know is that Emma needs to find Alexander Webb. He has another piece of the puzzle, and he's the only one who can authenticate the discovery. Webb is in danger too," Daniel warned. "There was an attempt at his office last month." Sarah's monitors began beeping faster as her heart rate increased. "Then there's not much time. Daniel, I need your word that you'll protect my girls. The formula in Michael's research could change everything. Sustainable energy, environmental restoration, medical breakthroughs. It's why they want it buried." "I promised Michael I'd help if anything happened to him," Daniel said solemnly. Rebecca and I will keep Emma and Lily safe. Sarah gripped his hand with surprising strength. There's more. Michael's sister, Charlotte, she knows parts of it too. But I've never been sure whose side she's really on. Be careful if she appears. A nurse appeared at the door, frowning at Sarah's elevated vitals. Dr. Thompson, I think Miss Riley needs to rest now. Daniel nodded. Just one more minute. When the nurse left, he turned back to Sarah. Where is the rest of Michael's research? What was in Egypt that was so important? Sarah's voice dropped to a bare whisper. The bracelet. Emma doesn't know its significance yet. Each charm is a key to a different part of the formula. Michael's father found the original in a hidden chamber near Alexandria, technology that shouldn't have existed thousands of years ago. The door opened again and Emma slipped back into the room, her expression determined. Mom, are you okay? Your machines were beeping. Sarah composed herself, smiling weakly. I'm fine, sweetheart, just tired. Come here. She patted the edge of the bed, and Emma climbed up carefully, settling beside her mother. I need you to be brave a little longer. Dr. Thompson and Rebecca will take care of you until I'm better. Emma nodded, though uncertainty clouded her eyes. I found something in the locket, she whispered. A name and some numbers. Sarah stroked her daughter's hair. Good girl. Keep it safe, keep it secret. Trust your instincts about who to share it with. Remember what Dad always said. The truth leaves clues for those brave enough to follow them, Emma recited. A smile touched Sarah's pale lips. Exactly. Now can you give me and Lily a moment alone? There's something I need to tell her too. Though clearly reluctant, Emma slid off the bed and stepped into the hallway with Daniel, who closed the door partway. Your mom's a fighter, Daniel assured her. She'll be out of here before you know it. Emma studied him with eyes too perceptive for her 10 years. You knew my dad, didn't you? Daniel's surprise showed before he could mask it. What makes you say that? The way you talk about him, like you knew him, not just heard about him. After a pause, Daniel nodded. Yes, I knew Michael Riley. We were colleagues a long time ago. Was he a doctor too? No, he was a brilliant scientist, a bioengineer. Emma absorbed this new information. Did you know why he disappeared? Daniel chose his words carefully. Your father was working on something important, something that could help a lot of people. There were others who didn't want his work to succeed. Why not? Because sometimes new discoveries threaten powerful people's interests. Daniel glanced at the partially open door, then back to Emma. Your father was a good man, Emma. One of the best I've ever known. Inside the room, Sarah cradled Lily close, whispering words too soft for others to hear, pressing a gentle kiss to the baby's forehead. When Emma returned, Sarah looked exhausted, but somehow more at peace. Time to go, I think, Sarah said, her voice fading. Emma, remember, the bracelet in my jewelry box, it's at Miss Maggie's place. Get it when you can. Emma frowned. But all our stuff from the apartment. Miss Maggie has a box of my things. I gave it to her for safekeeping before I got sick. Sarah's eyes began to drift closed. I love you both so much. The nurse returned, this time more insistent. She really needs rest now. As they left the hospital, snow had begun to fall again, transforming Chicago into a winter wonderland that masked the city's grit beneath a blanket of pristine white. Emma walked between Daniel and Rebecca, her mind whirling with new questions. Who were the people her father had threatened with his research? What was the formula he had discovered? And most pressingly, who could she really trust? In the car, Emma pretended to nap, listening as Daniel and Rebecca spoke in hushed tones. She knows about the Helios protocol, Daniel murmured. The microfilm must contain part of the formula. And Webb has another piece? Rebecca asked. We need to contact him. It's too risky by phone. We need to meet in person. What about Charlotte Riley? If she shows up, we deal with that if it happens. For now, we focus on getting Sarah well and protecting the girls. Emma kept her breathing even, her eyes closed. The adults clearly knew more than they were sharing. As the car glided through snowy streets, Emma made a decision. She would find Ms. Maggie's apartment and retrieve her mother's charm bracelet. Whatever secrets her parents had been protecting, it was her responsibility now. Back at the Thompson home, as Rebecca prepared lunch and Daniel made calls from his study, Emma slipped into the guest room and removed the locket from her backpack. The microfilm with Alexander Webb's name seemed more significant now, a piece of a larger puzzle involving her father's mysterious work. Emma carefully refolded the film and replaced it in the locket, along with the tiny key. Then she pulled out her mother's old address book, which she'd kept in her backpack since they'd left their apartment. Running her finger down the pages, she finally found what she was looking for: Margaret Winters, with an address in Rogers Park. Now she just needed to find a way to get there without the Thompsons knowing. Because despite their kindness, or perhaps because of it, Emma wasn't ready to share all her secrets. Not until she understood exactly what her father had discovered and why people might still be looking for it 6 years after his disappearance. Meanwhile, in a sleek office building overlooking Lake Michigan, a woman with auburn hair similar to Emma's studied a computer screen displaying hospital admission records. Her manicured finger stopped at Sarah Riley's name, and a cold smile touched her lips. She reached for her phone. "It's Charlotte," she said when the call connected. "I've found Sarah, and where she is, those children and Michael's research won't be far behind." 2 days after the hospital visit, Emma stood at the living room window of the Thompson home watching snow pile up on the quiet Lincoln Park street. School had been cancelled across Chicago due to the blizzard, though that hardly affected her. She hadn't attended classes since her mother fell ill. Behind her, Rebecca sat cross-legged on the carpet with Lily, who was beginning to show signs of rolling over, her tiny body rocking with the effort. "She's getting stronger every day," Rebecca remarked gently, supporting Lily's attempts. "The pediatrician at the hospital said she's catching up quickly." Emma nodded, though her mind was elsewhere. She'd been carefully planning her escape to Miss Maggie's apartment, waiting for the right opportunity. With Daniel called into the hospital for an emergency and the weather deteriorating, today might be her only chance. "Rebecca," Emma began casually, "could we maybe call Miss Maggie today? Mom said she has some of our things." Rebecca looked up, her expression thoughtful. "I tried calling yesterday, but still no answer. The hospital said she's visiting family in Michigan for the holidays." She hesitated. "Is there something specific you need?" Emma shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "Just some clothes and stuff. And a bracelet of Mom's. She mentioned it at the hospital." "A bracelet?" Rebecca's interest seemed to sharpen. "What kind of bracelet?" "Just a charm bracelet," Emma replied, watching Rebecca's reaction. "Mom always wore it. It has sentimental value." Rebecca nodded slowly. "I see. Well, the weather's pretty bad right now, but maybe tomorrow we could try to get in touch with the building manager. If Miss Maggie gave permission, they might let us into her apartment to get your things." "That would be great," Emma said, turning back to the window to hide her disappointment. She needed to act sooner. The opportunity came that afternoon when Rebecca received an urgent call from the hospital. One of her young cancer patients had taken a turn for the worse, and the family was asking specifically for her. "Emma, I need to go to the hospital," Rebecca explained, clearly torn. "Daniel's still in surgery and won't be done for hours. Would you be okay here with Lily for about an hour? I can ask our neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, to check on you." Emma feigned reluctance. "I can watch Lily. We'll be fine." Rebecca studied her, then nodded. "I'll give Mrs. Peterson a key just in case. She's right next door, number 8 on 14. If anything happens, anything at all, go straight to her, okay?" As soon as Rebecca left, Emma sprang into action. She had maybe 2 hours before anyone would become suspicious. Quickly, she bundled Lily in the warmest clothes she could find and secured her in the baby carrier Rebecca had purchased. She then pulled on her new winter coat and boots, stuffing the locket, her mother's address book, and some cash she'd found in her old jeans into her pockets. Emma wrote a quick note. "Gone to get Mom's bracelet. We'll be back soon. Lily is with me." She left it on the kitchen counter, knowing it would buy her a little time when Rebecca returned. Then, taking a deep breath, she stepped out into the swirling snow, with Lily strapped tightly against her chest. The Chicago Transit Authority trains were still running despite the weather. Emma had studied the maps in the Thompsons' Chicago guidebook and knew she needed the red line north to Rogers Park. Using the emergency cash her mother had always insisted. She purchased a transit card and boarded the train, keeping her head down to avoid attention. A few passengers glanced curiously at the young girl with a baby, but in the holiday rush, no one questioned her. 45 minutes later, Emma exited at the Morse station in Rogers Park, the neighborhood where they had lived before financial troubles forced them to downsize to a smaller apartment. The familiar streets brought a pang of nostalgia as she trudged through snow that reached her calves in some places. Ms. Maggie's building appeared unchanged, a 3-story brownstone. With green awnings, Emma pressed the buzzer for apartment 2B, expecting no response. To her surprise, the intercom crackled to life. "Who's there?" came a familiar gravelly voice. "Ms. Maggie? It's Emma Riley." There was a pause, then the door buzzed open. Emma hurried inside, stamping snow from her boots in the small vestibule. By the time she reached the second floor, Ms. Maggie stood waiting in her doorway, a stout woman in her 70s with steel-grey hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Good Lord, child, what are you doing out in this weather? And with the baby, too?" Ms. Maggie ushered them inside her cozy apartment, which smelled of cinnamon and coffee. "I just got back last night. Roads were terrible from Michigan." "I thought you were still away," Emma said, carefully unwrapping Lily from the carrier. The baby was awake but calm, her curious eyes taking in the new surroundings. "Had to cut my visit short when my daughter came down with the flu. Didn't want to catch it." Ms. Maggie helped Emma out of her wet coat. "Now what in heaven's name are you doing here? Last I heard, your mama was in the hospital." Emma explained about her mother's hospitalization and their stay with the Thompsons, carefully editing the story to sound less dramatic than their near freezing on Michigan Avenue. "These Thompsons," Ms. Maggie said skeptically, "they just took you in, out of the goodness of their hearts." "Dr. Thompson said he knew my dad," Emma admitted. "But I need to get something from Mom's things, the box she left with you. She specifically asked for her charm bracelet when we visited her in the hospital." Ms. Maggie's expression softened. "She did she? Well, I've got her box right here." She disappeared into a small study and returned with a weathered wooden case about the size of a shoebox. "Your mama left this with me the day before she collapsed. Said if anything happened to her, I should make sure you got it." Emma's heart raced as Ms. Maggie set the box on the coffee table. Did she say anything else? Just that it contained important family history. Ms. Maggie fixed Emma with a penetrating stare. "Your mama was worried about something, wasn't she? That's why you moved so suddenly last year." Emma hesitated, then nodded. "I think it had to do with my dad's work before he disappeared." Ms. Maggie sighed heavily. "Michael Riley was a brilliant man. Too brilliant, maybe. I never understood what he was working on. But Sarah, she understood. And it scared her." She gestured to the box. "Go on then, it's yours now." With trembling fingers, Emma lifted the lid. Inside lay several items: a small leather-bound journal, a USB drive, an old photograph of her parents standing before a pyramid in Egypt, and nestled in a velvet pouch, the charm bracelet her mother had worn for as long as Emma could remember. Emma carefully removed the bracelet, marveling at its intricate design. It contained an odd assortment of charms: a miniature pyramid, a scarab beetle, what looked like a solar disk, a tiny ankh, a lotus flower, and several geometric shapes that didn't resemble any symbol Emma recognized. Each charm was exquisitely detailed, made of what appeared to be solid silver. "Mom always said it was a gift from Dad," Emma murmured, turning it in the light. "I never realized how unusual it is." "Your father brought it back from his last trip to Egypt," Miss Maggie confirmed. "Right before you were born. Said he found it in a market in Alexandria. But your mother told me later it came from an archaeological dig." Emma frowned, remembering the name on the microfilm: Alexander Webb, Department of Archaeology. The connections were starting to form in her mind. "Ms. Maggie, did you ever meet someone named Alexander Webb or Charlotte Riley?" The older woman's expression darkened at the second name. "Charlotte? That's your father's sister. Piece of work, that one, always jealous of your father's success." She shook her head. "Never trusted her. As for Webb, name sounds familiar, but I can't place him." Emma slipped the bracelet onto her wrist, surprised by how heavy it felt. She then examined the other items in the box. The journal contained pages of handwritten notes in what she recognized as her father's handwriting, formulas and diagrams she couldn't understand, interspersed with drawings of what looked like ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. The USB drive was labeled simply Helios Phase 1. The word sent a jolt through Emma, remembering Daniel and Rebecca's whispered conversation about the Helios protocol. "Ms. Maggie, can I use your computer? I want to check what's on this drive." The older woman hesitated. "I don't know, Emma. If your mama kept these things hidden, she must have had good reason." "Please," Emma insisted. "It's important. It might help us understand why Mom's so scared." Reluctantly, Ms. Maggie led Emma to an aged desktop computer in the study. Emma inserted the USB drive, holding her breath as the computer slowly recognized it. A password prompt appeared on screen. "Of course," Emma muttered. She tried several combinations, her mother's birthday, her father's, her own, all unsuccessful. Then she remembered the tiny key from the locket still in her pocket. On impulse, she removed it and examined it more closely. Engraved on the shaft were tiny numbers, 12152205. LOVE, Emma whispered, translating the numbers to letters. She typed love into the password field, and to her amazement, the drive unlocked, revealing a single video file. With shaking hands, Emma clicked on it. The screen filled with her father's face, younger than in her memories, but unmistakably Michael Riley. His auburn hair, so like Emma's own, was slightly disheveled, and his eyes held a mixture of excitement and fear. "If you're watching this," he began, "then something has happened to prevent me from completing my work. Sarah, if it's you, I'm sorry, I never meant to put you and Emma in danger. If it's Emma," his voice broke slightly, "you must be older now. I hope you're safe, sweetheart." Tears filled Emma's eyes as her father continued. "The Helios protocol is complete. The formula works. We've successfully replicated the energy conversion process discovered in the Alexandria chamber. It's revolutionary. Clean energy on a scale never before imagined, with applications beyond anything we dreamed possible. But there are those who see it as a threat to their power, their profits." Michael Riley's expression grew more serious. "I've split the formula into 7 parts. Each piece is hidden within one of the charms on Sarah's bracelet. The decryption keys are with trusted colleagues. Daniel Thompson has one, Alexander Webb another. My sister Charlotte knows about the project, but not the full scope. Be careful who you trust with this information." He leaned closer to the camera. "The most important thing to understand is why this discovery matters. The technology we found wasn't just advanced, it was impossible. Carbon dating placed it at over 5,000 years old, but it employs principles we've only just begun to understand. It suggests either an ancient civilization far more advanced than we've acknowledged, or," he hesitated, "something else entirely." The video suddenly cut out, replaced by static, then resumed with Michael in what looked like a hotel room, his appearance more haggard. "I'm being followed. I've arranged safe deposit boxes in Chicago, Boston, and Cairo with additional documentation. Webb has the access information. Daniel knows the protocol for emergency situations. Sarah, remember our honeymoon cipher. Use it if you need to contact the others." The video ended abruptly, leaving Emma staring at a blank screen, her mind reeling with implications. Lily began to fuss in Ms. Maggie's arms, bringing Emma back to the present moment. "I need to copy this," Emma said urgently, "and I need to get back before they realize I'm gone." Miss Maggie, looking shaken by the video, nodded and helped Emma transfer the file to a new USB drive she found in a drawer. "You think these Thompsons are trustworthy?" she asked, as Emma packed the journal, bracelet, and drives back into the box. "I don't know," Emma admitted. Dad seemed to trust Dr. Thompson, but things change in 6 years, Miss Maggie finished for her. Listen, I'm coming with you. No arguments. An old lady and a girl with a baby will attract less attention than you alone. Emma started to protest, then reconsidered. Miss Maggie was the closest thing to family they had left in Chicago. Okay, but we need to hurry. Rebecca will be back soon. As they prepared to leave, Emma's phone, a basic model her mother had given her for emergencies, vibrated with an incoming call. It was Rebecca, her voice tight with panic. Emma, where are you? Are you and Lily okay? We're fine, Emma assured her quickly. We're at Miss Maggie's apartment. Mom asked me to get something from her. There was a pause, then Rebecca spoke again, her voice carefully controlled. Emma, listen to me. You need to stay there. Don't go anywhere. Daniel and I are coming to get you. What's wrong? Someone broke into our house while I was at the hospital. They tore the place apart. Rebecca's voice dropped to a whisper. I think they were looking for your mother's locket. And Emma, your Aunt Charlotte is in Chicago. She's been asking questions at the hospital. Emma's blood ran cold. We'll stay here, she promised, ending the call and turning to Miss Maggie. We have a problem. Miss Maggie moved with surprising efficiency for a woman her age, immediately pulling all the curtains closed and double-locking the apartment door. Sit away from the windows, she instructed Emma, leading her to a small breakfast nook tucked into an interior corner of the apartment. Now tell me everything. As Emma recounted the events of the past week, from finding shelter with the Thompsons, to discovering the microfilm in the locket, and now the video from her father, Miss Maggie's expression grew increasingly grave. She rocked Lily gently, the baby having fallen asleep despite the tension in the room. Your father was mixed up in something big, Miss Maggie said finally. I always suspected as much. He'd come back from those archaeological expeditions talking about paradigm-shifting discoveries and technologies beyond our current understanding. Sarah worried, especially after men in suits started showing up at your old house. Men in suits? Emma asked, fingering the charm bracelet now secured around her wrist. Corporate types. They claimed to be from investment firms interested in your father's research, but Sarah said they felt more like threats than opportunities. Miss Maggie adjusted Lily in her arms. That's around the time your father disappeared. Sarah never believed he just left you both. She was convinced something happened to him. Emma's thoughts raced. If my Aunt Charlotte is looking for us, and someone broke into the Thompsons' house, then whatever your father discovered is still valuable enough to hunt for, 6 years later, Miss Maggie finished. The question is, who can you trust? These Thompsons. They took you in awfully conveniently. Dad mentioned Dr. Thompson in the video, Emma pointed out. He said he had one of the decryption keys. Maybe so, but that doesn't mean his intentions are pure now. Miss Maggie's eyes narrowed. People change when power and money are involved. A knock at the door made them both jump. Miss Maggie handed Lily back to Emma and approached cautiously, peering through the peephole, her shoulders relaxed. It's the Thompsons, she confirmed, undoing the locks. Daniel and Rebecca burst in, their faces etched with worry and relief at the sight of Emma and Lily. Rebecca immediately embraced Emma, while Daniel secured the door behind them. Thank God you're both safe, Rebecca breathed. Emma, you shouldn't have left like that. It's dangerous. I needed to get my mum's things, Emma replied defensively, clutching the wooden box. She told me they were important. Daniel's eyes fixed on the charm bracelet around Emma's wrist. Sarah's bracelet, he said softly. Did you watch the video, Emma? Emma stiffened. How did you know about the video? Because I helped Michael make it, Daniel answered, his expression somber. The night before he disappeared. Miss Maggie stepped forward protectively. I think it's time you told Emma everything, Dr. Thompson. No more half-truths. Daniel nodded, gesturing toward the living room. You're right. But first, we need to make sure we're secure. Rebecca? Rebecca moved to the windows, checking that all blinds were fully closed. The car that followed us from the hospital is still there, she reported. Black SUV, tinted windows. Daniel's jaw tightened. We don't have much time then, he turned to Emma. Your father and I were research partners at the University of Chicago's Advanced Energy Laboratory. We specialized in theoretical applications of renewable energy technologies. But in 2015, everything changed when Michael joined an archaeological expedition to Egypt led by Alexander Webb. The man from the microfilm, Emma interjected. Yes, Webb had discovered an underground chamber near Alexandria that contained artifacts unlike anything ever documented. Carbon dating placed them at over 5,000 years old, but they contained technological components that shouldn't have existed until the modern era. Rebecca continued the story as she kept watch at the window. Among the artifacts was a device that appeared to harness solar energy with near-perfect efficiency. Your father spent months studying it, eventually replicating its core technology. That's what became the Helios Protocol, a revolutionary energy system that could provide clean, unlimited power at virtually no cost, which threatened every major energy company on the planet, Daniel added grimly. When word of Michael's breakthrough leaked, powerful interests took notice. Your father began receiving threats, then offers to buy his research exclusively. When he refused, insisting the technology should benefit humanity, not corporate profits, things escalated. What about my Aunt Charlotte? Emma asked. Mum never talked about her. Daniel and Rebecca exchanged glances. Charlotte Riley is complicated, Daniel said carefully. She worked for Vastcorp Energy as a senior executive. When she learned about Michael's discovery, she tried to convince him to sell the technology exclusively to her company. When he refused, their relationship deteriorated. She betrayed him, Rebecca stated flatly. We believe she was the one who disclosed the project's details to her corporate allies, which put your father in danger. Emma processed this information, pieces falling into place. So my father split up his research to protect it, and now Charlotte wants to find all the pieces. Not just Charlotte, Daniel corrected. Vastcorp, their competitors, government agencies, anyone who understands what the Helios Protocol represents. Unlimited clean energy would disrupt the global power structure. Some want to control it, others want to suppress it entirely. Ms. Maggie, who had been listening intently, spoke up. And where do you two fit in this conspiracy? Why should Emma trust you? Daniel's expression softened. Because Michael Riley was my best friend, because I promised him I'd protect his family if anything happened to him, and because Rebecca and I believe, as Michael did, that this technology belongs to humanity, not corporations. We've spent 6 years searching for Sarah and Emma, Rebecca added. When Michael disappeared, Sarah went into hiding. We lost track of them after they left their house in Evanston. Finding Emma and Lily on Michigan Avenue wasn't a coincidence. We'd been monitoring hospital admissions for Sarah's name. When she turned up at Northwestern, we began searching nearby areas for the girls. Emma studied their faces, looking for deception. If you're on our side, why didn't you tell me all this from the beginning? Would you have trusted us? Daniel asked gently. A 10-year-old girl responsible for a baby sister, approached by strangers claiming to know her missing father. We needed to earn your trust first. Emma couldn't argue with that logic. She looked down at the charm bracelet, its silver pieces catching the light. So each of these charms contains part of Dad's formula? Daniel nodded. 7 pieces, 7 charms, each encoded using a system only a few people understand. I have 1 decryption key. Webb has another. Your mother had a third. In the locket, Emma realized, pulling it from her pocket. The microfilm. Rebecca leaned forward. May I? She asked, extending her hand. After a moment's hesitation, Emma placed the locket in Rebecca's palm. Rebecca examined it carefully, then pressed a sequence of points on its engraved surface, different from how Emma had opened it. To Emma's surprise, a second hidden compartment revealed itself, containing another microfilm strip. The first compartment was designed to be found, Rebecca explained. This one holds the actual decryption key for the pyramid charm. So what do we do now? Emma asked, reclaiming the locket and both microfilm pieces. Daniel's expression grew serious. We need to get to Alexander Webb in Boston. He has the remaining decryption keys and access to the safe deposit boxes Michael mentioned. With Charlotte in Chicago and people searching for the bracelet, it's not safe to stay here. I'm not leaving my mom, Emma stated firmly. Sarah would want you safe above all else, Rebecca countered gently. Once we secure the complete Helios protocol, we'll have leverage, enough to protect all of you properly. A movement outside caught Ms. Maggie's attention. Cars pulling up, she warned. Black sedan, not the SUV from before. Daniel moved to the window and peered through a crack in the blinds. His face paled. It's Charlotte. Back door, Ms. Maggie said immediately, gesturing toward the kitchen. Through the service corridor, then down the fire escape. Daniel nodded. Rebecca, take Emma and Lily. I'll delay Charlotte. No, Emma protested. We stay together. Emma, Daniel said urgently, crouching to meet her eyes. I promised your father I'd protect you. Charlotte doesn't know you have the bracelet yet. If she finds all of us here, she'll know something's wrong. He's right, Rebecca added, already gathering Lily's things. We need to separate temporarily. Miss Maggie, will you come with us? The older woman nodded firmly. Wild horses couldn't stop me. As they prepared to leave, Emma impulsively hugged Daniel. Be careful, she whispered. I'm starting to think my dad was right to trust you. Daniel smiled sadly. Your father was the bravest man I've ever known. You're just like him. He pressed something into her hand, a small device that looked like a USB drive. If anything happens, this has emergency contacts, people who can help. Emma tucked it into her pocket alongside the locket and followed Rebecca toward the kitchen. As they slipped through the service door, the apartment buzzer sounded. Go, Daniel urged. I'll meet you at the backup location in 2 hours. The service corridor was dimly lit and smelled of old cooking oil. Rebecca led the way, carrying Lily while Miss Maggie followed with the wooden box. Emma brought up the rear, the charm bracelet heavy on her wrist, a constant reminder of the responsibility she now carried. The fire escape was icy, forcing them to descend slowly. As they reached the second platform, Emma heard voices from above. Daniel's, measured tones, and a woman's sharper, more insistent replies. She couldn't make out the words, but the tension was palpable even from a distance. They reached the ground just as fat snowflakes began falling again, quickly obscuring their footprints. Rebecca hailed a passing taxi and they piled in. Lily, beginning to fuss at the commotion. Union Station, Rebecca directed the driver, then turned to Emma. We need to get out of Chicago. I've arranged train tickets to Boston. What about Daniel? Emma asked, worry creasing her brow. He'll meet us there, Rebecca assured her, though Emma noticed uncertainty in her eyes. He's handled Charlotte before. As the taxi navigated the snowy streets, Emma gazed out at the city that had been her home. The familiar skyline looked different somehow, more threatening, as if hiding secrets in its shadows. She touched each charm on the bracelet in turn, wondering what knowledge they contained and why it had cost her father his freedom, perhaps even his life. The taxi pulled up at Union Station's grand entrance, its Beaux-Arts facade imposing against the darkening sky. Rebecca paid the driver while Miss Maggie helped Emma with Lily. The station was crowded with holiday travelers, providing convenient anonymity as they made their way to the ticket counters. 3 adults and 1 infant to Boston, Rebecca told the agent, presenting IDs that Emma hadn't seen before. The Lakeshore Limited. The agent typed on her computer. That departs in 40 minutes. You're in luck. We have 4 seats together in a private compartment. As they waited in the Amtrak lounge, Emma noticed Rebecca checking her phone repeatedly. Is Daniel okay? She finally asked. Rebecca forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. No messages yet, but that's normal. Charlotte can be persistent in her questioning. Ms. Maggie snorted. That woman was always a snake, even as a child, according to your mother. A familiar figure entering the lounge made all 3 freeze. Charlotte Riley, unmistakable with her auburn hair and designer coat, was scanning the crowded room, 2 men in dark suits flanking her. Don't move, Rebecca whispered. Don't draw attention. But it was too late. Charlotte's gaze landed on their group, her eyes widening in recognition. A slow, triumphant smile spread across her face as she began moving purposefully in their direction. She's seen us, Emma hissed. What do we do? Rebecca stood positioning herself between Emma and Charlotte. Change of plans. Ms. Maggie, take Emma and Lily to platform 3. Now. What about you? Emma protested. I'll delay them. Go, Emma. Remember what Daniel gave. You? The station announcement system crackled to life. Last call for the California Zephyr on platform 3. All aboard. Ms. Maggie grabbed Emma's hand. Come on, child. We need to move. As they slipped away through the crowd, Emma glanced back to see Rebecca confronting Charlotte, their conversation hidden by the noise of the station, but their body language speaking volumes. For a brief moment, Charlotte's gaze met Emma's across the distance, and the cold calculation in her eyes sent chills down Emma's spine. Ms. Maggie led them not to platform 3, but through a service door and down a maintenance corridor. Rebecca's creating a diversion, she explained. The Boston train is actually on platform 5. How do you know that? Emma asked, struggling to keep up while adjusting Lily in her carrier. Because Rebecca told me the real plan while you were getting your coat. She suspected we might need to separate. They emerged onto platform 5, just as the Lakeshore Limited was completing boarding. Miss Maggie presented their tickets to the conductor, who ushered them aboard. As the train began to move, Emma pressed her face to the window, searching desperately for any sign of Rebecca or Daniel. The platform remained empty, except for a few stragglers and railway workers. They'll be all right, Miss Maggie said, though her voice lacked conviction. They've been doing this dance with Charlotte for years. Emma touched the charm bracelet, each piece now representing not just her father's brilliant discovery, but the sacrifices of those protecting it. As Chicago's lights receded into the snowy darkness, she made a silent vow. She would finish what her father started, no matter what it took. In her pocket, Daniel's mysterious device began to pulse with a soft blue light. The Lakeshore Limited rocked gently as it carved through the snowy landscape of upstate New York. Nearly 20 hours had passed since their hasty departure from Chicago, and Emma sat wide awake in their private compartment while Miss Maggie dozed in the seat across from her, Lily nestled securely in her arms. The baby had been surprisingly cooperative throughout the journey, as if sensing the gravity of their situation. Emma removed Daniel's device from her pocket, studying the pulsing blue light. She had initially feared it was some kind of tracking beacon, but Miss Maggie had assured her that Daniel wouldn't endanger them that way. It had to be something else, a communication tool perhaps, or a key to yet another piece of the puzzle. The device resembled a small flash drive, but with no obvious connection port. Emma turned it over in her hands, noticing a tiny indentation on one side. On impulse, she pressed her thumb against it. The blue light steadied, and a holographic display projected into the air between her hands, small enough to remain unnoticed by anyone passing their compartment, but clear enough to read the message that appeared. Emma, if you're seeing this, we've been separated. Don't worry. The protocol is designed with redundancies. Rebecca and I will meet you in Boston if possible. If not, proceed to Alexander Webb at Boston University Department of Archaeology. The device you're holding contains coordinates to his secure location. Trust Webb. He was your father's closest confidant besides me. The bracelet is the key to everything. Each charm must be decrypted in the correct sequence. Pyramid, scarab, sun disk, ankh, lotus, cube, sphere. Use the microfilm in the second compartment of the locket for the first two. Webb has the rest. Stay safe, Daniel. The message faded, replaced by a navigation interface showing their current location and a blinking destination marker in Boston. Emma quickly pressed the indentation again and the projection disappeared. Her mind raced with questions. Had Daniel known they would be separated? Was this always part of the plan? And most worryingly, what had happened to him and Rebecca after they left Chicago? She glanced at her phone, but as expected, there were no messages. Rebecca had instructed her to keep it powered off except for emergencies, to prevent tracking. The train's conductor had announced they would arrive in Boston's South Station by mid-afternoon. From there, they would need to make their way to Boston University without attracting attention. Emma touched each charm on the bracelet, reciting the sequence Daniel had specified. Pyramid, scarab, sun disk, ankh, lotus, cube, sphere. What secrets did they hold? Her father had discovered something so revolutionary that powerful people had been hunting for it for 6 years. The responsibility weighed heavily on her 10-year-old. Shoulders, Ems. Maggie stirred, adjusting Lily without waking. "Any news?" she whispered, noticing Emma was awake. Emma shook her head. "Nothing from Daniel or Rebecca, but the device had a message. We need to find Dr. Webb at Boston University." Mims. Maggie nodded. "I figured as much. Your father always spoke highly of Webb, called him the only archaeologist brave enough to challenge conventional history." "What did he mean by that?" "Your father believed history as we know it is incomplete, that advanced civilizations existed far earlier than mainstream archaeology acknowledges." Ms. Maggie smiled slightly. "Most people thought he was eccentric, but your father had evidence." "The technology from Alexandria," Emma realized. "That's what started everything." "Precisely. Technology that shouldn't have existed thousands of years ago, yet carbon dating proved its age conclusively." Ms. Maggie's expression grew serious. "If your father's Helios protocol works the way he believed, it doesn't just represent clean energy. It represents a fundamental shift in our understanding of human history." The train announcement system crackled to life, informing passengers they were approaching Albany Rensselaer Station, their final stop before Boston. Emma watched the snow-covered landscape glide past, wondering how many other secrets lay buried beneath centuries of accepted history. 6 hours later, they stepped onto the platform at Boston's South Station, the winter afternoon already darkening toward evening. Emma adjusted Lily in her carrier while Miss Maggie hailed a taxi. The city felt alien and imposing, nothing like the familiar streets of Chicago. "Boston University Department of Archaeology," Ms. Maggie told the driver. She turned to Emma. "We'll find Webb and he'll help us make sense of all this." The campus was quiet. Most students already departed for winter break. The Department of Archaeology occupied an imposing stone building that seemed appropriately ancient for its purpose. Inside, a security guard directed them to the 4th floor after Ms. Maggie explained they had an urgent appointment with Professor Webb regarding a family artifact. The department hallways were dimly lit, display cases, lining the walls with ancient relics from civilizations long gone. Emma's footsteps echoed on the polished floor as they searched for Webb's office. Finally, they came upon a door with a brass nameplate, Dr. Alexander Webb, Ph.D., Professor of Archaeological Sciences and Ancient Technologies. Miss Maggie knocked firmly. No answer came. "He must have left for the day," Miss Maggie said, disappointment evident in her voice. Emma pulled out Daniel's device, pressing the indentation again. The holographic display appeared, but this time it showed a different message. "Secondary location, Museum of Ancient Innovation, Conservation Lab, basement level. Use access code 12-15-22-05. "He's not here," Emma said. "We need to go to the Museum of Ancient Innovation. It's on campus somewhere." A helpful directory in the lobby pointed them toward a modern glass structure several buildings away. The winter evening had fully descended now, campus lights casting long shadows across the snow-covered quadrangle. Emma clutched Lily closer as they hurried through the cold. The museum appeared closed, its main entrance dark, but Emma noticed a service door to one side with a keypad. She entered the access code, the same as the password on her father's USB drive, love. The door unlocked with a soft click. Inside, emergency lights provided minimal illumination as they navigated through silent exhibition halls filled with glass cases. Displays about ancient Roman concrete, Chinese seismoscopes and Mesopotamian batteries stood frozen in the half-light. Following signs to the basement level, they descended a spiral staircase to the conservation laboratories. A single lab at the end of the corridor had light spilling from beneath its door. Emma approached cautiously, Miss Maggie right, behind her with a now awakened Lily. Before Emma could knock, the door swung open. A tall man with salt-and-pepper hair and wire-rimmed glasses stood framed in the doorway. He wore a rumpled tweed jacket over a lab coat, and his eyes widened at the sight of them. "Emma Riley," he breathed as if seeing a ghost. "My God, you have his eyes." "Dr. Webb?" Emma asked, though she already knew the answer. Yes. Come in quickly. He ushered them inside, checking the corridor before locking the door behind them. The lab was cluttered with equipment, computers, and artifacts in various stages of analysis. I've been expecting you since Daniel activated the emergency protocol. Yesterday. You've heard from him? Emma asked eagerly. Webb's expression grew somber. Not directly. The system only tells me the protocol was initiated. I've been monitoring the situation from here. He gestured to a bank of screens showing news feeds and what appeared to be security camera footage. Charlotte has been busy. The authorities are looking for you under the pretense of a custody concern. 2 children allegedly abducted by an elderly woman. Ms. Maggie snorted indignantly. Elderly? The nerve of that woman! Webb smiled briefly before turning serious. Again. We don't have much time. VastCorp has considerable influence even here in Boston. He focused on Emma. You have the bracelet and the locket? Emma nodded, extending her wrist to display the charm bracelet while retrieving the locket from her pocket. Daniel said you have the rest of the decryption keys. I do. Webb moved to a large safe in the corner, entering a complex combination. From within, he removed a leather folio. Your father and I prepared for this contingency years ago. The complete decryption sequence is here, but we need a secure facility to properly analyze the data contained in the charms. What about Daniel and Rebecca? Emma pressed. Do you know if they're okay? Webb hesitated. There was an incident at Union Station in Chicago. It's being reported as a security altercation. Daniel and Rebecca were taken into custody, but they're not in any police database I can access. I believe Charlotte's people have them. Emma's heart sank. We have to help them. The best way to help them is to complete what your father started, Webb said firmly. Once we have the complete Helios protocol, we'll have leverage to ensure everyone's safety. As Webb gathered equipment, Lily began to fuss in Miss Maggie's arms. The older woman rocked her gently, humming a soft lullaby. Poor little ones had quite an adventure, she murmured. Emma watched them, a realization dawning. Dr. Webb, my sister. She was born after my dad disappeared. He doesn't know about her. Webb paused, his expression softening. How your father would be overjoyed to know he has another daughter. He returned to his preparations. We need to move quickly. I have a research facility outside the city where we can work safely. My car is in the secure garage below. As they prepared to leave, Emma noticed a familiar photograph on Webb's desk. The same image she'd found in her mother's box, showing her parents in Egypt. You were there, she said, pointing to a figure in the background she hadn't noticed before. With my parents at the dig site. Webb nodded. That was the day we discovered the chamber. None of us understood then how it would change our lives. He picked up the photo, studying it with a mixture of nostalgia and regret. Your father was brilliant, Emma. He saw connections the rest of us missed. He understood immediately that what we'd found wasn't just an anomaly. It was evidence of knowledge that had been deliberately suppressed throughout history. By whom? Emma asked. That's the question that got your father into trouble, Webb replied gravely. Throughout history, those who control energy control society. The Helios Protocol threatened that control. It still does. A security alarm suddenly blared through the building, red lights flashing in the corridor outside. Webb moved quickly to his computers, checking the security feeds. We have company. VastCorp security posing as federal agents. They must have tracked us somehow. My phone, Emma realized with horror. I turned it on at the station to check for messages from Daniel. No time for regrets, Webb said, grabbing a backpack and stuffing it with equipment and files. There's another way out through the specimen storage room. Quickly now. They hurried through a connecting door into a vast room filled with shelves of catalogued artifacts. Webb led them between the rows toward a service elevator at the far end. Behind them, they could hear voices and footsteps entering the lab they'd just vacated. Almost there, Webb encouraged as they reached the elevator. He swiped a keycard and pressed the call button. Long seconds passed as they waited for the car to arrive, the sounds of pursuit growing closer. When the elevator finally opened, they piled inside. Webb pressed the button for the basement garage. then used his keycard again to override the normal operation. This will take us directly down without stopping, but they'll figure it out quickly. In the garage, Webb led them to an unassuming grey SUV. They climbed in, Ms. Maggie sitting in back with Lily while Emma took the passenger seat. Webb started the engine and navigated through the garage to an exit on the far side from the main entrance. "We're lucky," he muttered as they emerged onto a quiet side street. "They're still securing the main exits." Emma watched in the side mirror as dark figures spilled out of the museum entrance behind them, but Webb had already turned a corner, putting the building out of sight. He drove deliberately, but not suspiciously, fast, taking a circuitous route through Boston's maze-like streets. "Where are we going?" Emma asked as the city began to thin out into suburbs. "Rockport," Webb replied. "I have a private research facility there. It's off-grid, difficult to track." The drive took nearly an hour, during which Webb explained more about her father's work. The Alexandria chamber contained technology that utilized principles we're only beginning to understand now. Quantum energy harvesting, molecular restructuring, coherent light manipulation. Your father's breakthrough was connecting these ancient techniques to modern applications. But how could technology that advanced exist thousands of years ago? Emma wondered. "That's the question that changes everything," Webb said. "Either human civilization is far older and more cyclical than we've believed, or—" he hesitated. "Or what?" "Or we weren't alone in developing it," Webb finished quietly. They eventually turned onto a narrow coastal road, the Atlantic Ocean visible as a dark expanse to their right. Webb pulled up to what appeared to be an ordinary seaside cottage, but Emma noticed subtle security measures, cameras disguised as decorative elements, reinforced windows, a sophisticated entry system. Inside, the cottage's rustic appearance gave way to a high-tech facility. One room was entirely devoted to computers and specialized equipment. Another contained preservation chambers for delicate artifacts. A third held what looked like a small laboratory. "Welcome to where history and future meet," Webb said, setting down his backpack. "Your father helped design this place, said we needed a sanctuary where truth could be protected until the world was ready for it." As Ms. Maggie settled Lily in a makeshift bed, Webb began setting up equipment to analyze the charm bracelet. Emma watched, fascinated, as he connected specialized scanners to computers. "Each charm contains a microdot with encoded information," Webb explained. "Together they form the complete Helios protocol. Your father designed it so that the information is useless without all 7 pieces, properly sequenced and decrypted." He gently removed the pyramid charm from Emma's bracelet and placed it under a digital microscope connected to a specialized reader. Using the decryption key from Emma's locket, he began the process of extracting the data. "It will take time to compile everything," Webb said, as code began scrolling across his screen. "Why don't you get some rest? You've had quite a journey." Emma shook her head. "I want to stay. I want to understand what my father discovered." Webb smiled. "You are definitely Michael's daughter." Hours passed as they worked through each charm in sequence. Ms. Maggie dozed in an armchair with Lily, while Emma assisted Webb, handing him tools and asking questions about the process. As dawn approached, they had successfully decrypted 5 of the 7 charms. "We're close," Webb said, rubbing his tired eyes. "The data is already forming a coherent whole. Your father's brilliance is evident in every line of this." Emma studied the screens, trying to make sense of the complex formulas and diagrams. "What will happen when we have it all? First, we secure it properly, distribute copies to trusted individuals around the world, ensuring it can never be completely suppressed again. Then we begin the process of implementation, carefully, gradually, to minimize economic disruption." "And what about my mum, and Daniel and Rebecca?" Webb's expression grew determined. "We use our leverage. Charlotte and Vastcorp want this technology desperately. Once we control it completely, we can negotiate from a position of strength." As they prepared to decrypt the 6th charm, the cube, a security alert flashed on Webb's monitors. "Proximity warning," he muttered, checking the camera feeds. "How did they find us so quickly?" Emma peered at the screen, expecting to see VastCorp Security or Charlotte. Instead, she gasped in surprise. "It's Daniel and Rebecca." "Sure. Enough." The Thompsons were approaching the cottage, looking exhausted but unharmed. Webb quickly disarmed the security system and opened the door to admit them. "Thank God you made it," Daniel said, embracing Emma. "We weren't sure you'd reach Webb safely." Rebecca immediately went to check on Lily and Ms. Maggie. "Everyone's okay." "We're fine," Emma assured them. "But how did you escape? Webb said Charlotte's people had you." Daniel's expression darkened. "They did briefly, but Charlotte underestimated us and your mother." "Mom?" Emma's heart leaped. "What about Mom?" "She's stable and improving," Rebecca explained. "When Charlotte learned you'd left Chicago, she tried to use Sarah as leverage. Your mother may be ill, but she's remarkably resourceful. She created enough of a disturbance at the hospital to allow us an opportunity to escape during transfer." "Charlotte's not far behind us," Daniel warned Webb. "We managed to lose her team temporarily, but she has resources." Webb nodded grimly. "Then we need to finish this now." He returned to the equipment, working quickly to decrypt the final 2 charms with Daniel's assistance. As the complete data set finally came together on Webb's main screen, a chime indicated the compilation was complete. The room fell silent. As they all stared at the result, a complete schematic for the Helios protocol, its elegant design belying its revolutionary implications. "It's beautiful," Rebecca whispered. "And it works," Webb confirmed, running a simulation. "The energy conversion efficiency is nearly 99.8% with minimal heat loss. Nothing we've developed comes close." Daniel turned to Emma, his expression solemn. "Your father always said this knowledge belongs to humanity, not to corporations or governments. Now we need to decide how to share it with the world." Before Emma could respond, another security alert sounded. Multiple vehicles approaching fast. The camera feeds showed a convoy of black SUVs coming up the coastal road. "Charlotte," Daniel said grimly, "with significant backup." "We need to leave," Rebecca urged, already gathering Lily's things. Webb shook his head. "No time, they've got the road blocked in both directions." He turned to his computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. "But we can still win this. I'm uploading the complete Helios protocol to secure servers worldwide. Once it's done, no one can completely suppress it again." Outside, vehicles screeched to a halt. Doors slammed as figures in tactical gear deployed around the cottage. "Emma," Daniel said urgently, "whatever happens next, remember that your father did this for you, for all children and the world they'll inherit. The Helios protocol isn't just about energy. It's about freedom from those who would control humanity's future for profit." A voice came through a megaphone outside. "This is Charlotte Riley. We have you surrounded. Send out the Riley children and the research materials, and no one will be harmed." Webb's computer chimed. "Upload complete. It's done. The Helios protocol is now in the public domain, distributed to research institutions, open-source platforms, and media outlets worldwide." "Then it's time to face my sister-in-law," Daniel said with grim determination. He opened the front door and stepped out with his hands raised. Rebecca, Webb, and Ms. Maggie followed, forming a protective barrier. Emma, holding Lily, stood in the doorway, watching as Charlotte approached from the lead vehicle. Despite the family resemblance, the same auburn hair and determined jaw, Charlotte's cold expression showed none of the warmth Emma remembered from her father. "It's over, Charlotte," Daniel called. "The Helios protocol has been released worldwide. You can't suppress it anymore." Charlotte's face contorted with fury. "Do you have any idea what you've done, the economic disruption, the chaos this will cause?" "We've given humanity a choice," Webb responded calmly. "Clean, unlimited energy. A technology that can help address climate change, poverty, resource scarcity. Your corporate masters fear it because they can't control it." Charlotte's gaze locked onto Emma and Lily. "My nieces," she said, her tone softening slightly. "Michael would have wanted me to protect you." "My father wanted to protect everyone," Emma said, finding her voice. "That's why he did this. That's why we finished it." Something shifted in Charlotte's expression, a flicker of doubt, perhaps even shame. She looked from Emma to the armed security personnel around her, then back to her nieces. "Stand down," she finally ordered her team. Everyone stand down. As the security forces lowered their weapons, Charlotte approached Emma slowly. "You look just like him," she said quietly. "He was always the idealist in the family. I thought he was naive." She glanced at the tablet one of her assistants handed her, showing news feeds already beginning to report on the mysterious Helios protocol release. Perhaps I was the naive one. In the days that followed, the world began to absorb the implications of the Helios protocol. Initial skepticism gave way to excitement as independent researchers confirmed its validity. Charlotte, recognizing the inevitable, negotiated a deal with Daniel and Webb to help implement the technology responsibly, ensuring economic transitions would be managed carefully. Sarah Riley was transferred to a private medical facility where she recovered steadily, reuniting with her daughters under the watchful protection of the Thompsons. The mysteries of Michael Riley's disappearance remained, partially unsolved, though evidence suggested he had been forcibly detained by corporate interests. Charlotte's connections eventually led to information indicating he had been held in a private research facility overseas. 2 months after the events at the cottage, as spring began to thaw Boston's frozen landscape, a secured video call came, through to Webb's facility. Emma, her mother, and Lily gathered around the screen, hardly daring to hope. The face that appeared was older, thinner, with a beard now streaked with grey, but the eyes, Emma's eyes, were unmistakable. "Dad?" Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. Michael Riley smiled, his own eyes glistening. "Emma, my brave, brilliant Emma." His gaze shifted to Sarah, then widened in surprise at the sight of Lily. "Is that—" "Your daughter," Sarah confirmed, her voice breaking with emotion. "Lily Michael Riley. We're coming to get you," Emma promised. "We know where you are now. Aunt Charlotte is helping." Michael nodded, clearly emotional. "I knew you'd figure it out, Emma. The bracelet, the locket, I left the breadcrumbs, hoping someday you'd follow them." "I did, Dad. We all did. And now, the Helios protocol is changing everything, just like you wanted." As arrangements were made for Michael's return, Emma reflected on the journey that had begun on that cold Chicago night. From a desperate girl protecting her baby sister to the keeper of a world-changing legacy, she had fulfilled the promise she'd made, not just to her mother, but to the future itself. The ancient technology that had remained hidden for millennia was now humanity's collective